Hey,
I'm back.
land back, everybody. I was jamming out a little bit to our theme song.
It's a good song.
It is a good, right? Canva begin them beats. But yeah, lay back. Welcome everybody to the Revolutionary Book Trap. Not the band, we are the Revolutionary Book Trap. Because we fancy like that. All right. So yes, welcome. We shift and change it.
Yes,
Right?
all the time.
All the time. So lay it back, welcome everybody. We are the Black Hammer Organization. We are doing the Revolutionary Book Chat because we want to politically educate the people about their history, about their future, and about everything that they need in order to carry out revolution and change to get their freedom. All
That's
right. Okay. And that's why we've been doing this. We've been having this Revolutionary Book Chat for about 2.5 years. No, almost 3 years. Because Black Hammer about to turn 3 years old.
3.
Mm-hmm.
Little toddler baby.
Yeah, preschool age,
Mhm.
preschool age, but reading books like Open Veins of Latin America.
Exactly. Brilliant little genius.
Yes, and so yeah, we are out here doing this, and no other organization got this consistent of a book club, this consistent of any kind of political education or reading.
They really try though.
They do.
I guess if they tried, I feel like they would do it. So.
Yeah, like the most that they try is like No Name with their library, I guess, but yeah. You got to pay for stuff,
Exactly.
Right? Or I don't know. No Name isn't leading any PE circles. That's all I know. But yes, land back, everybody. Welcome. My name is Chief Oju. I represent the nations of Africa and Boriken. I come from the working class with some petty blue contradictions, and I use he, him pronouns, and I'm the chief of agitation and propaganda here at Black Hammer, giving you this political education, making sure that you're informed about the revolution. Yes, my lovely co-host.
Me. Land back, y'all. My name is Chief Atakame. I represent the Koka no Wirarika people, as well as the poor and working class. I use they, them pronouns, and I am the chief of staff for the Ministry of People's Affairs, where we work tirelessly to get our people through contradictions, like physical, material contradictions placed by colonialism. And we talk about a lot of the start of them in this book.
So. Yes, exactly. Right. This book that we're reading lays out the entire history across continents of what is the source of our problems, as colonized people. So yeah, like that's what we're reading. We're reading Open Veins of Latin America by Eduardo Galeano, who is an Uruguayan writer, Uruguayan, poet, writer, who like laid out this book that shows us exactly what has happened to indigenous peoples over in more other colonized peoples as well over the last almost 600 years. Right. And just like how Turtle Island and Pachamama and Abya
Mm-hmm.
right? Are these places that are just being drained of their resources for hundreds of years. Open veins, right? And so, yes, it does expose and tell all. Yes. Yes, Rand, like you said. But when you're in here, make sure you are sharing. Make sure you are sharing, liking, subscribing, and commenting. Oh, mountains are H for so we look so good.
Thank you.
We's pretty. Yeah, no.
Colonized.
Yeah, because we're colonized. It's the melanin.
God bless.
God bless, for real. Like people like keep thinking I'm so young, but little do they know I'm actually 45. I'm youthful. Mm-hmm. But yes. Oh, land back, Virgil. Land back. I hope Toblerone's doing good.
Land back.
Land back. Land back, everybody. But yes, like, share, subscribe, and comment. You can share this link on YouTube or Facebook, wherever you're watching. You can share it to your you can share it to your friends, put in your DMs, put on your profile, tweet it out. All right. Follow us at Black Hammer Times, BLKHMMR Times on Twitter, all right, or Black Hammer Times on Instagram, so that you can get updates about this as the book trap and anything else when it comes to anti-colonial revolution.
So many things we're doing.
So many things that we're doing. But before we get started, what should people do? They should give that
money. As our amazing chief of grounds says, quiero dinero. So that we can continue this amazing work that we do across nations. So we are international. So y'all already know Cash App, blackhammer.org. So we can continue to push this work forward in all of our chapters.
Yes, exactly. Like these resources build revolution, because revolution needs resources. Without resources, can you feed people? Can you clothe people? Can you house people? No, you need resources. And those resources, in the context of the world today and the world that colonialism has created, does mean money, right? Money that is exchanged for things like food, for paying for housing, getting our homeless people into hotel rooms or getting them into houses, right? All these things take resources, and so you want to make sure that you are giving something so that the people carrying out the task to complete that revolution are able to. And so, yes, you could donate to Cash App blackhammer.org. Right? And that's where we can get those resources to make sure that people are safe. Our chapters across the world, have been doing outreach to to the homeless this whole week, and the weekend is heavier. And we had our Revolutionary Church in Atlanta where they're like serving more and more people than ever, and they need those resources. They're out there making sure they get those resources so that they can serve the people and serve the people the best. Exactly. So, make sure that our people can get the best by donating, all right, to blackhammer.org. And if not, I want to see a hashtag at least shared when you share this live. Once you shared it, do hashtag shared in comments so that we know that you is making sure that other people get this.
Exactly.
Yes. All right. Well, put those donations or pledges into the comments, but we're going to get into our Black Hammer book trap trivia.
There we go.
And I was like, and Black Hammer,
as it should be,
as it should be, right? As it should be. But yeah, we're gonna get to our book trap trivia. You want to read the question?
I will. This is my favorite part. The discovery of gold in Brazil made what state the new capital in 1763? See the pronunciation.
Yeah, I can help a little bit.
There you go.
All right. So I know I learned a little bit of Portuguese. I wanted to go to Brazil so I could learn some things. Is it Bahia? Is it Amazonas? Is it Pernambuco or Minas Gerais? Which one is it? If you were reading and you were learning about Brazil, you learned that when there was gold discovered there, that all the operations moved from where everyone was already at, and they moved to where the resources were at. And so the resources were the gold. So where did they go? Is it A, Bahia, B, Amazonas, C, Pernambuco, or D, Minas Gerais? One of those has a big clue. One of those names, if you know Spanish, has a big clue as to what the correct answer is.
This is true.
Right?
Or if you read the book, you don't need clues.
Or if you read the book, you wouldn't need clues.
That's right. Dang, nobody read this time. There's no answers yet.
Yeah, that's concerning.
It really is.
But as we always say, if you should guess regardless. And if you know the answer and you get it right, that's $5. If you don't, that's $10, So drop. Okay. Oh, here we got a D. We got a D from Ren.
You can also just skim.
Yeah.
The last little bit.
It was D.
It was D.
They were like coming in.
That's real suspicious to me.
Coming in the tail end there, right?
Exactly.
Okay, we got a D from F. Joe Biden. All right, let's see what the answer is. It is D.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
You owe us $5.
You owe us $5. Yes. Minas Gerais. Minas. Mines, y'all. Yeah, see the mines.
Like gold mines.
Yes, like the gold mines. Exactly. That really that they moved their whole capital, and that is the story of colonizers, right? The story of colonizers is them taking whatever they have, going toward wherever the resources are, whether that's people or minerals, whatever it is. But yes, make sure you keep on donating to our Cash App, BlackHammer.org. And we are going to get started with our Read That Backs. A Read That Back is what?
It is parts of the book that stuck out to you that you would like to discuss with us. It can be a phrase, it can be like a few phrases, paragraphs, or stuff in the book that you have questions about, that we can break down together.
Yeah.
So you can drop those, just page number, and we will read them out and discuss together.
Yes.
In the comments.
Ooh, people are already getting into the topics already. See, it's also it's actually related to the question. It's also wild how they took away our native names and names of our cities after the resources they like to exploit. It's whack.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, that's like Cameroon and Africa comes from shrimp. Portuguese for camarão, shrimp. Ivory Coast, the fact that it's still Ivory Coast means that there's some colonial entity saying there's still ivory here, there's still stuff here. All these places, their names are connected. Argentina, silver, that's what that means. Yeah, so wow. But yeah,
that's all that we're worth to them. Anyways,
so we're gonna get to our Read That Back. Yours is first, right?
Yes, mine is first. It's on page 38 of the book, towards the bottom. The colonial Latin American economy enjoyed the most highly concentrated labor force known until that time, making possible the greatest concentration of wealth ever enjoyed by any civilization in world history. The price of the tide of avarice, terror, and ferocity bearing down on these regions was Indian genocide. The best recent investigations credit pre-Columbian Mexico with a population between 30 and 37.5 million, and the Andean regions is estimated to have possessed a similar number. Central America had between 10 and 13 million. The Indians of the Americas totaled no less than 70 million when the foreign conquerors appeared on the horizon. A century and a half later, they had been reduced to 3.5 million. In 1685, only 4,000 Indian families remained of the more than 2 million that had once lived between Lima and Paita, according to the Marquis de Barinas, Archbishop Liñan y Cisneros, denied that the Indians had been annihilated. Quote, "The truth is that they are hiding out," he said, "to avoid paying tribute, abusing the liberty which they enjoyed and which they never had under the Incas." End quote. While metals flowed unceasingly from Latin American mines, equally unceasing were the orders from the Spanish court granting paper protection and dignity to the Indians whose killing labor sustained the kingdom. The fiction of legality protected the Indian. The reality of exploitation drained the blood from his body, from slavery to the encomienda of service, and from this to the encomienda of tribute and the regime of wages. Variance in the Indian labor forces juridical condition made only superficial changes in the real situation. Plan back.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot to unpack for sure. I mean, it was a little bit of a longer one, but I did want to get into the numbers of just like how many of our people were murdered, right? Were genocided. Like to go from 70 million to 3.5 million it's astounding, really, right? And it's not like those millions of people lived anything close to a normal life or died of anything close to normal, like from normal causes, right? Like and then to say that they didn't actually die but they were hiding out, right, is also just like the colonizers were so delusional. Like they really tried they made all the mental gymnastics to justify how many people died, like the atrocities that they were committing against people, right? And then even to say that they were providing protection, like legal protection, right? Like it which is so it's so similar to what happens today still, right? Like they come in, they take your land, they destroy your resources, murder all your people, and then give you permission to stay. And give you permission
becomes your right all of a sudden.
Like all of a sudden, like they're so generous for letting you work there, for letting you live there, for pennies, right? For crumbs of your own resources, you know, for feet of your own land. Like it's nothing new. We see it now with like quote unquote immigrants, right? Like from Abya, from Turtle Island, who have to like beg for any sort of humanity to be granted to them. And you know, they something that the Europeans also love to throw out, right, is where it says abusing the liberty which they enjoy and which they never had under the Incas. They love to push that, like, oh, you oppressed each other, right? Like bigger tribes like conquered or oppressed smaller ones. And it's like, but the difference is like that's none of your business. Like that's none of your business, first of all. Like it has nothing to do with you. Like you don't get to come in and like play this like humanitarian mediator type of thing. Role. Exactly. When you come in and murder everyone, enslave everybody, right? Like it talks about like they went from having, I was like, where it says like once they were given legality, they went instead from like just straight up slavery to the encomiendas, which is like indentured slave. Like it's still slavery. It's
like sharecropping for Africans.
Exactly. It's just under a different name, right? Because now it's like, oh, you kind of chose it yourself. But they really don't give you any other choice because that's the only job that they'll give you in your own land, and that kills you anyway, right? And it's just it, and like the superficial changes in like that only made superficial changes in the real situation. That's like any laws passing. Like they
exactly.
That's like what voting does, right? It's like, oh, we're mad, and they'll pass a law that says be nice to this group of people. But really, that doesn't change our material reality. It doesn't change our material conditions, because we're still living under the same rule. We're still living under the same oppression, under that same like type of slavery. Just they make it just look different. So they can pretend that something changed. But yet our people are still in these same situations. But
no, land back, you laid it out perfectly. And think of it like you said, first the numbers in general. I mean, that's people talk about genocide. I mean, that's a Holocaust, like that's tens of millions of people that we no longer have, and like millions of generations that we no longer have. Just imagine how many more lines of our people that we would have, how much more family that the colonized people would have if it wasn't for this, right? And to think too that they were trying to say that again, there might be less of you, but aren't you living a better life than you were like under some other indigenous tribes? Again, it's like you said, it's none of their business, right? None of these things that they're mediating have anything to do with morals, because there's nothing moral about what they're doing, about who they are. They don't actually. What they're doing is just pitting people against each other so that it's easier to control their resources.
Exactly, right? And like the answer is no. We're not living better.
Exactly.
Just in case you were. The answer is no.
No. Yes. If you think, oh, it's better because now I get to participate in a system that they created that makes them look good and rich, and so it can make me look good and rich. No, because they're only looking good and rich because they're killing you. So
it's like wouldn't you rather know your own land so well that you can build based off of it, right? Like have a living relationship with your land and with your people. Like it talks about, right, like the floating gardens in Tenochtitlan in Mexico, right? Where the land wasn't fertile, and so they improvised and they created these garden beds on the rivers, right?
And artificial islands. That's so
exactly cool. Just to grow, but it wasn't even exploitative, right? Like now the over farming it kills the earth in itself, right?
Yeah.
And this was just a harmonious relationship with the earth. Like, wouldn't you rather have that back? Like, wouldn't you
Yes.
rather know your people and your land so well that you don't have to worry about anything,
Yeah.
right? Because you all have the same goal in mind, which is just to live a plentiful life
Yes.
with your people, right? And that means respecting the resources and where they come from. And like any contradictions that came from like two groups fighting, rivalries or whatever, like now, like, right, we can overturn that when the time comes, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's why these divisionism things is so annoying to me, because it's like they have us so focused on fighting each other that we're not even going to get to the point where we can start to overturn our contradictions amongst ourselves,
and
right?
fight our common enemy.
Exactly. Like, we have to come together with anyone who unites with our same goal, which is to bring down this current system. Like CIC was talking about today in the Revolutionary Church, right? Like, if you know this ain't it, then we can work together. If you know that what we have right now is not it, we can work together. And then when we get to that point of literally surviving, then we can work out our differences.
Yes, and work out our own contradictions. You know, it's same thing in Africa, right? Where like Belgium would force these divisions, of force this infighting between different African tribes within the Congo, right? And you know, some of those conflicts were born in something that already existed before colonialism a little bit, right? But they didn't consider it tribalism. They just considered it conflicts between peoples. You know, it's just we're humans. We get conflict, right? We can get angry. We can, you know, piss each other off. But they exploited it and grew it so that it felt like that those conflicts were the reasons they were living the way they were under colonialism, right? Where neither one of them has the resources of the other, but yet they're going to make them fight for that. And that's what they do in the United Snakes, so Africans versus Asians, or indigenous versus Africans, or you know, indigenous versus Asian. All these, you know, colonizations here are fighting each other when none of us got each other's stuff.
Exactly.
You know, it's they, our enemy, the colonizer has our stuff.
Exactly.
And so once we realize that this ain't it and someone else got our stuff, let's go get it back, right?
Together, and then we can redistribute it amongst ourselves.
Exactly. Right? But yeah, no, the great read that back about the comment. And yeah, it's just so relatable today, and relatable to so many other colonized nations. Yeah, Trey says people fight, like it happens. You know, it does. It's not like, oh, we're gonna live in a world void of any conflict. That's not what that means. It's living in a world where we don't live at the expense of one another, where we have tools and processes to work out conflicts that that, you know, lose as little lives as possible, and keep as many resources under the dictatorship of our nations as possible.
Right, like where those conflicts don't have atrocious consequences.
Yeah.
Like where we can talk it out. Literally.
Yeah. It could happen, y'all. It's not like it hasn't happened before. It's not like we can make it happen. So that's what you do when you become a revolutionary. You work to make a world where that happens.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, I see a lot of read that backs from people up in the comments. Oh, welcome, Alex. You said exactly earlier. Welcome. Alexine face Cheen. We can't even imagine those numbers, you know, like the numbers that people lost. Yes, exactly. That's right, Cheen. But yeah, let's see if we can go read that back from the audience. And so if you just joined, you could drop a quote from the book, which you can find at blackhammer.org/library. So you can see. We got one from Ren here on page 43. I hope this ain't one of ours. Sometimes I feel like it's on one of mine. Is it yours?
No.
Okay. All right. So we'll go page 43. It says, these societies have left many testimonies to their greatness despite the long period of devastation. Religious monuments built with more skill than the Egyptian pyramids, technically efficient constructions for the battle against nature, artworks showing indomitable talent. In the Lima Museum, there are hundreds of skulls which have undergone trepanning and the insertion of gold and silver plates by Inca surgeons. The conquest shattered the foundation of civilizations. The installation of a mining economy had direr consequences than the fire and sword of war. Laying back. Yeah, no. The advancements of our people just spoke so much against what Europeans tried to put in our minds, that they were somehow superior and somehow had something to offer us, when it was us constantly creating their lives and making them advance because of our resources and intelligence, right, and skills. Like I forgot which European, which one of the Spanish or Portuguese, missionaries it was, but they're like, oh, the Indians were so weak that they died when you breathed on them. It wasn't because we were weak; it's because y'all were nasty. Y'all dirty and nasty as hell. And so we taught you to bathe, and we taught you about the stars. We taught you about astronomy. We taught you about the land. We taught you about farming. All these things. And you see that even surgery, where you can fix head injuries with the gold and silver that y'all claim was so valuable, when we were using it to help heal people.
Exactly.
Right. And so it's just that it says so much about where our people, colonized people, are compared to these colonizers. And the way that our constructions, our architecture was, it says they built with more skill than Egyptian pyramids. That's, I guess, all relative. You never know. But those are some. I mean, I don't know. Those are some good structures, like the ones like they show like Chichen Itza, and like that's a different kind of pyramid that looks like a little, maybe not more stable, but a little bit more, I don't know, easy to
grounded.
Yeah, grounded maybe. Yeah. The pyramids in Egypt, you slide down, but those you can climb. Yeah. But yeah, our advancements are just so much.
Yeah, so much so that to this day, these people think that it was aliens. Like, to this day, they cannot believe that it was indigenous people, even though indigenous people had the stars mapped out, right? Had calendars, had like all of these things that even the colonizers. I always wanted to say colonizer, conquistadores, they're the same thing.
Yeah, conquistadores.
It's the same thing, right? But like, they came and they were like, "What? How y'all know all of this? Like, that's crazy. Like, we don't even know how to wash our ass." But whatever. Like it. Yeah, and so like, even like, it's so wild to me that to this day, you will find people who are hardcore. It was aliens. It was aliens, because there's no way humans. It's like, no, there's no way y'all
could have done.
There's no way y'all could have done this. But like, again, it's having that relationship with the earth, like noticing geometrical patterns and mathematical stuff all over nature, right? Like, taking that in conjunction with each other and understanding the world and the universe in a way that colonizers can't, because they look at everything so separately, so small-minded. They're dumb.
They don't. Yeah, I mean, like, their biggest architectural accomplishment is like Stonehenge, which is like 10 uneven shaped stones put in a circle.
And they still think that's aliens.
Yeah, and they think that's aliens too. Where that literally is just like, let's take some big rocks and put them in a circle.
I know.
And people by the millions visit it.
And they're so astounded.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, what was the point of this? And I was like, someone was bored.
Yeah, right. Whereas in colonized nations, everyone's like, let's build structurally sound homes.
Exactly. And not only are they structurally sound, but they're also environmentally safe.
Yeah.
Because again, they understood their own weather patterns. They understood the natural events that hit them at different times. And not only did they build structures that could sustain their lives during that, they also got out of the way.
Yeah.
like when hurricane season came, they were able to map that out again, because they had an understanding of the stars and time and stuff like that. And when it's like, okay, it's coming up, they would just scoot over. Scoot over.
Like, put it under the shade.
Literally, right? But their buildings would still be there.
Yeah.
And like, it's one of again, that relationship with nature, to understand and just get out of the way, because they put their life and they understood that we do live at the mercy of Mother Earth.
Yeah.
Right? Like, we're not more powerful than Mother Earth. We have to live with the earth according to the earth's rules, right? And that's something that just doesn't happen anymore, right? Like those. First of all, look at any natural event, and you will see structures, houses, people losing their homes, people losing their lives, all because they were not prepared.
Yeah.
They were not informed ahead of time. But things are not made to last or to sustain life anymore.
True. It's just like the how do they spend the cheapest amount of resources to get the most profit back, regardless of like the situation of safety they're putting, colonized people in. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or like even living, like if you look at Cuba, they organize island wide drills for
Yeah.
evacuation.
Mhm.
Where like if they know a storm is coming on the east, they will move the entire island to the west.
Yeah.
Right. Like
Mhm.
all the people will move.
Yes.
And
their belongings.
And their belongings, exactly. Like
Yeah.
it just, and in the last like over 10 years, only I want to say less than 10 people have died from natural events in Cuba.
Yeah.
We can't even get through the winter without losing hundreds.
Yeah.
You know.
See? Yeah, no, I got some good comments here. I see one, OG gonna start a war, hashtag all pyramids are equal. Yes, our second principle of unity says we're all equal as colonized people, even our structures, right?
Yeah, it's just different creative
Yeah,
processes.
it's just different creative processes to respond to the environment we're in. So yes, pyramids, and all places are equal. But yeah, Joe Biden also says white people are freaked by crop circles. Of course, they can't handle pyramids or the Great Wall. Yes, they make whole movies like Science. They're like, huh? Mm-hmm. What? A circle? Look at they're so astounded by circles. When like that's why they're like the Earth's round. Our people had to be knowing the Earth's round forever. They had to.
I mean, there are pictures already.
Yeah. Goodness. And what you call it? Conrad Dill said, and that's why whites place cities where there shouldn't be cities. Yes,
New Orleans,
like New Orleans, right? They're not like, oh, let's put this on like the lowest lying delta. It's like, no, that's not where like places we're supposed to go. It's not like even like indigenous people were gathering at those places. Y'all, it's just that we know our land best, right? Mm-hmm. And so, we're going to, take care of it best. And so we got to get out of the hands of the people destroying our homes and get it back into ours.
But we're going to get to why there are cities there in a little bit.
Oh, yes, we are. Let's do our next Read That Back. I believe it's mine on page. What page is this on? This is on page 40? Yes, this is on page 40. So it says, the compilation of the laws of the Indies abounds with decrees establishing the equal right of Indians and Spaniards to exploit the mines, and expressly forbidding any infringement of Indian rights. Thus, formal history, the dead letter of today, which perpetuates the dead letter of the past, has nothing to complain about. But while Indian labor legislation was debated in endless documents, and Spanish jurists displayed their talents in an explosion of ink, in Latin America, the law, quote, was respected but not carried out. In practice, quote, the poor Indian is a coin with which one could get whatever one needs, as with gold and silver, and get it better, as Luis Capoche put it. Many people claim mestizo status before the courts to avoid being sent to the mines and sold and resold in the market. At the end of the 18th century, Con Colo Corvo, who had Indian blood, denied his own people. Quote, we do not dispute that the mines consume a considerable number of Indians, but this is not due to the work they do in the silver and mercury mines, but to their dissolute way of life. End quote. The testimony of Capoche, who had many Indians in his service, is more enlightening. Freezing outdoor temperatures alternated with the infernal heat inside the cerro, which is the mine. The Indians went into the depths, and it is common to bring them out dead or with broken heads and legs, and in the mills they're injured every day. The metayos, this is like the indenture servants, hacked out the metal with picks and then carried it up on their shoulders by the light of a candle. Outside the mine, they propelled the heavy wooden shafts in the mill, or melted the silver on a fire after grinding and washing it. So yeah, man, back. It says a couple things to me here. Like one, that the laws again that they put in place to protect us, colonized people, quote unquote, protect us. It's just an explosion of ink. It's just useless words on a paper that don't mean anything in materially to our people. Right, we have to remember that whether it's these laws about indigenous people in the mines in the 1600s, or the Voting Rights Act of 1965, or the Voting Rights Act that they want to pass now with Joe Biden. I don't know why we keep needing all these laws, because they're never going to do anything. And you should realize it, because if you have to keep asking for it over centuries, you probably ain't going to get it. And it's something that it's just a continued lesson for colonialism that this explosion of ink on paper by these colonizers is not going to protect you because they don't have your interest in mind. You're the loot, just like they said. Here, like the indigenous person was like a coin worth more than gold and silver. We are the loot. Yet again, we are the resource. We are a resource that they're going to use to get more resources. And so, we have to, always remember that, that these laws aren't going to do anything. And, they're gonna be respected, but not carried out, right? They're gonna be like, yes, like, we'll say it in our speeches, we'll wear kente cloth and kneel at the Capitol, like Pelosi and the dumb Democrats, but it's not ever going to be carried out. It's never going to be carried out. But then also you see how like these laws impact how we see ourselves as colonized people. And like, a lot of times people want to be like, oh, like they deny who their nation or deny who they are just because, they want to just be white. But it's not like they just want to be white all the time. Lots of times people want to avoid the pain and oppression that they're going through that's associated with their nation. They just don't realize that it doesn't go away just because you claim a different name for it,
Mm-hmm.
So like mestizo, which is like this mix, idea, right, of like being indigenous with European blood, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is so generic and like it's so many people who look so different say that they are that, and here, they were saying I'm gonna call myself that so I don't get sent to work in the mines.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like, I mean, it's heartbreaking, and like it's just like, I don't know. I don't like. It's just imagining our people like just like trying to like just deny so much their indigeneity, so they're not just forced into forced labor in like this mercury mines, y'all. Like no one's supposed to mine mercury. It just a little bit kills you. It's just it's just like. It's just it's just like the horror of that doesn't make me go, oh wow, you wanted to call yourself mestizo. Like I'm not gonna do the liberal thing and be like, like, oh yeah, like that's not who you are. Like you're indigenous. Like why do you hate yourself? Like I'm not, like that's not what this is. Like that's the liberal understanding of this. This is people doing whatever they have to do to survive, to not be sent to mercury mines. And we have to realize that like our people are good people. And so, if our people are doing things like this, it's not because they're just like, oh, I just want to be someone else. People are just trying to survive in this system and do whatever they have to do. And a lot of times that means denying who you are and denying your nation.
Exactly.
But, as long as you come to the realization that you have to, accept and fight for your nation with other nations to not experience that oppression anymore, then, once you realize that, then you don't have to do that no more, yeah.
Yeah, land back. Now that's it's a great PE and a great summation. Like it's early assimilation, right? It's no different than I mean it's where the idea, like we see it still today, right? People trying to deny their indigenous roots or their colonized roots, right?
Mm-hmm.
With the straightening your hair, like whitening your skin, wearing like paler makeup, things like that, or like refusing to learn your family's language, right? Like I mean, Spanish is a colonizer language, but it is the way that our people communicate mostly now, right?
Especially in the context of the United States.
Exactly, especially here, and that's why like you'll find especially with people like indigenous parents who were here a little bit earlier. Mm-hmm. Or whatever, like what we call like third or fourth generation, right? They refuse to teach their children Spanish because of the attacks that brought to them, right? And so like it's that same thing, and it goes back to how like mestizaje is an erasure of indigeneity, right? Like in Mexico, like it's literally called like La Raza movement. Where like it was this push to like, oh, everyone is mestizo, right? Which literally just means mixed. Because it's like, no, I'm mestizo, like I'm part Spanish or I'm part European or whatever, right? And like in this case, that's literally how you got out of like literally death work.
Yeah.
Right, because like you would go like again, mercury is incredibly poisonous.
Yeah.
And you know, like throughout the book, they do also describe like some of the stuff that happened to our people for being exposed to this for so long, for breathing it, for touching it. Like y'all, mercury is not supposed to be messed with. Like you can look videos up now of people who do work with mercury and all their full get up, right? To protect themselves. And like our people went in there, like our children were sent there, right? Like it's not, yeah. And like Comrade Dilf says, kind of reminds me of the three liberal trend of branding yourself as undocumented and proud, when ICE is out here putting our people in prisons and camps. Yeah. Yeah, the undocumented movement, like yeah, like it's a whole it's a whole thing where like they are people who are like quote unquote undocumented, first of all, are only undocumented because of the colony, right? This is still like their land and stuff. But they're pushed into this liberal world. They're pushed into this like liberal ass world where the only way that you can like fight for yourself is to fight for like immigration reforms. Right. Though that same ink stuff, right, that we talk about, like the only thing you can do is sign petitions. The only thing you can do is like, oh, you have to go to college and like get a degree to be the first generation, whatever. Like that's how they push our people to do, like to prove that they're worth something, right? And it's this thing where like why, but we're no different than the people that are being put into these camps, in these cages, right? Like anybody, regardless of your legal status or not, we're like it's by chance that you are not the person in that camp. And like that should infuriate you. That should push you to do work. That should push you to do more with your life than to get a degree and keep giving the colony your resources.
Exactly.
You know, like give that brilliance, give that passion that you have directly to your people, right? Like because like and understanding again, our people are good people, and this person that you know, like denied his people is not that much different from people who go to college to try to be better, right? Like it's because you're still trying to just improve, you're trying to do more, but like take that raw passion and that dedication for more and do something that's actually going to change the material differences for not just yourself but for your entire people.
Exactly.
And for other people, right? Like it should just be colonized people in general. Like it's our people are just thrown into this liberal world where they're just it's a circle. It's a circle.
Yeah. And like, you know, people, you know, you're saying about people wanting to be worth more, and you know, you have to realize if you're colonized, you're already worth something to the colony because you're a resource, you're loot, and that's has worth to them. That you give them resources, and so you think, oh, I'm not worth anything to like this country. You are already. You're a resource.
Like they don't care if you got a degree or if you're working labor jobs.
Exactly.
Like you're still working for them. Either way.
Exactly. And so like you're helping keeping it going somehow, right? So be worth something to your people instead, right? Shift your worth, shift your labor towards your people, like what Takame was talking about, and take that energy and use it for your people. So that's why you should join the revolutionary movement and join one like Black Hammer at blackhammer.org/join. That's how you can become a part of this and serve your people, serve the people who are most cast aside and called them worthless the most, you know, our homeless people, right? And be a part of that, and take the power back, like Brent says here. If you want more, then you have to join the revolution. Yes, land bag. I know we have a couple more audience read that backs that were up earlier. If you have a quote from this book, make sure you drop it into the comments. You know, we want to see your read that backs. I think our next one is from I think it's QC. QC. I'm not sure what page it's on, but it's up there. So let's see. It says the Spaniards scoured. Oh, you want to read this one?
Oh yeah, that's like my contact.
Oh, I could do it. The Spaniards scoured the countryside for hundreds of miles for labor. Many died on the way before reaching Potosi, but it was the terrible work conditions in the mine that killed most people. Wow, that's what we were just talking about. You know exactly right. It's like so. QC also says this mirrors the search for labor in southern Turtle Island and nations like Guatemala, El Salvador, and Mexico. and that Kamala, Hillary, and AOC want labor to serve the colonizers, and we demand the independence of our labor to the revolution.
Period.
Period. Laying back to
QC.
that
Oh, okay,
QC.
okay.
Yeah, laying out. Yeah, like exactly. Like the movement of indigenous people across the continents by the colonizer is just to shift them to different labor markets, right? So
Mhm.
shifting people, and that's the indigenous people, Africans, all colonized people.
Mhm.
So whether it's shifting them to the like Africans, for example, to the south to work as slaves on the plantation, or moving them north to the factories to work as slaves on the plantation, or indigenous people moving them to moving a lot of them to like cities, right? Too as well to work like in steel and work in metals and shifting them to agriculture and to farms. Like it's just
Yeah.
moving people to where they need to, and that's exactly what Yeah, Kamala, Hillary. That's what all of them have done.
Yeah, which is wild because Kamala, whatever.
Kamala.
Didn't she go? I think it was to Guatemala, to like the Guatemala border.
Yeah.
To like supposedly like try to talk about diplomatic peace or whatever.
Mhm.
And then was like, don't go. Like, don't come to the U.S. Like, stay here and fix your country. But at the same time, people from Guatemala, Mexico, like all of Abya Yala, are being enslaved here.
Exactly.
Being brought as slaves here to work on like their agriculture farms and like, so make it make sense. Like, do you know, like the United States has such a long history of allowing immigrants when they need more work, like more workers.
Yeah.
Right. They open the borders. They open like work visas again or whatever. And then when the economy kind of starts to, according to them, like level out, like it, then never mind, right? And then they revoke everything, and then there's like mass deportations, and it's that same cycle again, over and over and over again. But yeah, that one, honestly, I saw the clip and I couldn't stop laughing because I was just like, damn, homegirl, you could have said that from your room. Like, you could have
well, all the way to Guatemala to
like you could have go on Zoom, like go on Instagram Live, like it's the same thing. Yeah, exactly. Like God, like yeah, it just they want us for our labor, like we are worth. We keep everything going for them, right? And it, anyways.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just noticed the hoops behind the curls, and they's cute as hell. Those hoops are cute, y'all. See, I would wear hoops, but I got a short neck, so they'd be like laying on my neck.
You should wear dangly things.
No, but the dangly thing's still laying on my shoulders because I have broad football shoulders. Linebacker shoulders. I ain't never been a linebacker. But yes, no, they
I'll
look
make
good.
you some.
Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, they can make me some, but they look cute.
Thank you.
Sorry, I just saw it. But yeah, no, laying back. These liberals is disgusting, y'all.
Facts.
Disgusting. All right. I see another. Read that back from. I saw it from SG, I believe. Oh yeah, on page 47, right here. Okay. Oh yeah, that's a good one. I had it highlighted, but I was like, it's a lot. But coca was the coca leaves. But coca was then distributed in moderation. The Inca government had a monopoly on it and only permitted its use for ritual purposes or for those who worked in the mines. The Spaniards energetically stimulated its consumption. It was good business. In Potosi in the 16th century, as much was spent on European clothes for the oppressors as on coca for the oppressed. In Cusco, 400 Spanish merchants lived off the coca traffic. Every year, 100,000 baskets with 1,000,000 kilos of coca leaf entered the Potosi silver mines. The church took a tax from the drug. The Inca historian Garcilaso de la Vega tells us in his Comentarios Reales que tratan del origen de los Incas, that the bishop, canons, and other Cusco church dignitaries got most of their income from tithes on coca. Which is wild. And that the transport and sale of the product enriched many Spaniards. For the few coins they received for their work, the Indians bought coca leaf instead of food. Chewing it, they could, at the price of shortening their lives, better endure the deadly task imposed on them. In addition to coca, the Indians drank potent aguardiente, and their owners complained of the propagation of maleficent vices. In 20th century Potosi, the Indians still chew coca to kill hunger in themselves and still burn their guts with pure alcohol, the aguardiente, sterile forms of revenge for the condemned. These colonizers, this is what Tiger said, these colonizers have been pushing substance abuse in our community since day one all over the world. And that is right. Like, think of the British with the Chinese opium, like, the opium wars. Like yeah, exactly. Since day one, because they know that our people are already suffering enough and want to cope with the suffering somehow, yeah, land back. That whole read that back is very clear and to the point.
Yeah, land back. No, like y'all laid out from the beginning, right? And it's not just these like a couple examples. It's all over. It's all over time, all over the world. And again, like this is similar to like the mass suicides, right?
Yeah.
Or like mothers like taking the lives of their children. Because it's all just a way out. It's a way to cope, right? And it's the same with like substance abuse now. Right, like our people living under the colony, like we know in our bodies and our like everything that this is not the way we're supposed to be living, and people will do whatever they can to survive. Right, like people are just trying to survive. Like that's why like this, and the stigma, right, with like substance abuse, like our people are good people. Our people want better for themselves and for their loved ones. And this is just, again, the way that they can get through the day. Like, how do you cope with such terrible things happening to you and your loved ones? How do you cope with that? And just because like it was so my brain is going faster than
I know that feeling.
But like like we all have our own version of it, right? Like sure, people drink, right? People have drinks or whatever, and like that, okay, sure. But like we all have our vices. We all have the ways that we cope with the colony, right? Like joining a revolutionary movement, you cope by constantly working to bring it down, right? Like that can be the way that you like not only acknowledge the suffering but like do something about it and get yourself out of that, right? Like, because you understanding first of all that like it's not the fault of the people who are dependent, right? It's not their fault. Like they're trying to survive, like they're doing anything they can to stay alive in the system and in the colony. And like to give people a new like a way to channel that, to channel that pain, because that's where it comes from, is just pain, right? And anger. Giving people a way to like channel that to build for the better is something that like will provide like limitless results, right? And like that is one of our goals for Black Hammer, right? Is to like overturn all of the contradictions of the colony, including substance abuse. Right? Because it does take so many of our people, and like our people are brilliant. Right? And that's another way that they try to keep us down. Is to like inhibit our capacity and to inhibit like how much we can fight back or how much we think about the situations that we're in, because they know that if our people like were fully there, like fully conscious of like the pain that's, and that they understood that they're like they are the power, like to overturn that, it's over. And that's why we're here, right? To do that, to be that catalyst, to be that push, to have that qualitative change in the way our people see themselves in the world. But
no, beautifully said. I don't even have to add more to that. It's just that's exactly, it's over once they realize that there's nothing that they can do to stop us, because we have our full minds and full bodies at capacity to to fight back and take back what's ours. And they've been doing since day one. Like I said, China with the British and opium, African communities here in the United States, right? In the 70s, after which they did after a revolutionary movement, right, to prevent people from being capable of doing the things that they were doing. And that's when they brought it in, y'all. So it's direct response to people trying to resist what is being put on them. Land back. Okay, we're gonna go to our next read that back, which I believe is yours.
Yes, I believe it's a shorter. Yes, land back. This is what I was talking about earlier. Exiled in their own.
What page is that?
Sorry. I was getting excited. On page 47 of the book, towards the bottom again.
Mhm.
Exiled in their own land, condemned to an eternal exodus, Latin America's native people were pushed into the poorest areas, arid mountains in the middle of deserts, as the dominant civilization extended its frontiers. The Indians have suffered and continue to suffer the curse of their own wealth. That is the drama of all Latin America. Land back. This section goes on to like have set examples of like it says native people being pushed into the poorest areas. And yeah, like again, this is because right they want to move us out of where the resources are because that's where they want to move in. And like to tie this into what we were talking about earlier about like New Orleans and Las Vegas and having cities where cities shouldn't be. That's because they don't want to live there. They know, like they even they actually understand that those are not feasible places to live. That's why they put us there.
Yeah.
Right, like that's why they put colonized people there. That's why New Orleans is like a majority African, right? Because they know. That's why like you look at California too, right? Like the coastal cities or where the fault lines are. Like it's proven. You can look at the demographics and stuff, like where they put indigenous or like colonized people, right? And this is specifically here.
Yeah.
But colonized people, they put it where we are at most risk.
Yeah. Poor working class colonized people.
Poor working class. Yes, exactly. Poor working class colonized people. Like our city or the cities that they push us to are the ones where they can't thrive there.
Yeah.
Right, which again speaks to even more of our power because we do thrive there, right? We build there, we build generations, and we constantly like we're forced to like rebuild, right? Like rebuild NOLA is such a common phrase at this point, right? Because it's a city that's basically already underground, or under the water, because I think it's getting closer to be like it's already at
it's already but
it's sinking more and more, and like the levees, like there's only so much. There's only so much, and this is something that has been true for years. Like I feel like I've been hearing about that since I was in middle school.
It's for decades really at this point.
And like after Katrina and then after Ida, right? Like it's just pushed more and more, and like even Harvey and like all of these other things, right? Like that's we are pushed and exiled in our own lands to the places that are the most difficult to survive in, the places that our ancestors avoided also, respectfully like understood that was just Mother Nature Mother Nature,
and that's not where we're going to settle
exactly. Like that was the land being the land, like for like there's a saying, right? Like the earth will give you permission. The earth will give you permission of where to be, right? Like if you listen to the earth speaks to you, and that's such a big belief with Indigenous people, right? Like that's why when humans try to settle in places where they shouldn't, the earth speaks. The earth speaks in drought. The earth speaks in like in all of these things, right? Like it's the idea that climate change and like all the droughts and the disasters like is the earth speaking, right? And telling us that something's wrong, like telling us that like we need to change, right? And it's only colonized people who are listening, right? It's only colonized people who understand, and the colony makes sure that it's colonized people who see the effects of that pain, right? And the effects of what they are doing. Like it's also like a big thing that like in Indigenous people are like the biggest I forget the word, but like they conserve the land, right? And the least pollutants of the earth, right? But yet Indigenous people, colonized people are the ones who see the ramifications of colonialism and the pollutants like the U.S. military, which is the biggest pollutant in the world. In the whole world. But like all of these people who are just destroying the earth, right? And like we again are being pushed into the areas that are becoming uninhabitable. And again, like salute and shout out to all of our colonized poor working class people who, despite all of the odds being stacked against us, again, like we out here, we out here surviving, we're out here still building against all odds, against like these like redlining tactics too, right? Are another form of genocide, is another way that colonialism is still here, because they want to make sure that we don't survive by any means necessary. They don't want us to survive, and we do, and that's the biggest threat to them. So
they want to make sure we don't survive, but they try to use this as much as possible until then, right? Just like like the way that the way that anyone would use a napkin as much as possible before throwing it away. That's how the colonizers think of colonized people, right? Like, we're ready to throw you away, but let's use you as much as you can, as much as we can first, right? Yeah, no, land back. I totally unite with that. Um, Yes, totally unite with that. And like, Colibri here says, yep, colonized people rebuild cities to survive, right? The bird said, against all odds, the colonized proletariat shall rise.
Period.
Yeah, we're winning, that's the thing, right? Like, regardless of what they do to us and how much we're, working to survive, we're still winning because it is always bending toward us. It's always bending towards now. But Martin Luther King said, like, the arc history bends towards justice. There's truth in that, right? Like, the history bends and the future bends toward us, right? And that's because we're always winning. And it's like they don't think that we're gonna win, but
our victory is
our victory is imminent, y'all. Imminent. Landbag, you want to do your next one that's close by? Your next reader that's close by?
It's the next page, right?
Yeah, I believe.
Or 2 pages. Right? Page 49 of the book.
Yeah. Yeah, not even. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Wow, on theme. It's not on purpose. Not even Indian. Yeah, page 49. Not even Indians isolated in the depths of forests are safe in our day. At the beginning of this century, 230 tribes survived in Brazil. Since then, 90 have disappeared, erased from the planet by firearms and microbes, violence and disease, the advanced guard of civilization. For the Indian, contact with the white man continues to be contact with death. Every legal dispensation since 1537 meant to protect Brazil's Indians has been turned against them. Under every Brazilian constitution, they are, quote, the original and natural masters of the land they occupy, but the richer that virgin land proves to be, the greater the threat hanging over their lives. Nature's very generosity makes them targets of plunder and crime. Indian hunting has become ferocious in recent years. The world's greatest forest, a huge tropical zone open to legend and adventure, has inspired a, quote, American dream. Men and business enterprises from the United States, a new procession of conquistadores have poured into Amazonia as if it were another far west. The U.S. invasion has inflamed I can never say that word. Avarice of Brazilian adventurers as never before. The Indians die out, leaving no trace, and the land is sold for dollars to the new interested parties.
Mm-hmm.
Land back.
That is on topic.
It is on topic about like our land and how they treat our people and stuff like that. Yeah, to have 90 tribes, right? And like, first of all, because the reason Brazil's always been, or whatever, the land where Brazil is, has always been so fascinating to me because of like the dense forest, like has allowed for so many indigenous groups to survive and thrive and live almost untouched by colonialism, right? And I remember growing up, like it was a big thing. It was like untouched by the colony. Untouched.
Like, oh look, like from helicopters, they were like filmed.
And like you could see people running, right? And it was like, who knows how many are out there. Yeah. And it was still very disgusting and objectified, right? But I always was like, that's so cool. Yeah. And me too. Yeah. It was always like so fascinated, and like a part of me was like, I wish that was me. Like I wish that was me. Like I don't, and it's like untouched by the West. Like they haven't been whatever. Uncivilized people, right? Uncivilized people. And I was like, shit, I want to be uncivilized. Right? Yeah, please sign me up to be uncivilized. Like, uncivilize me, please. Yes.
Can you do hashtag uncivilize me? All right. Hashtag uncivilize me.
Yes, please. That's what we're doing, apparently, if you want to call it that, right? But yeah, like the people who maintained themselves, their people, right? To be civilized. Oh, we can dream, and we will work towards that. But we'll know. Anyway, my favorite line. For the Indian, contact with the white man continues to be contact with death. right? And like let's break that down a little bit, where like even now in this century, the method of colonialism and genocide is the same.
Yes.
Violence and viruses, right? Microbes, because they dirty. Oh, they're so dirty, y'all.
Yes.
They're so dirty. And like we talked about, like, oh, like breathing on an indigenous person would cause them death, right? It's because y'all carry so much crap all over you, like literally shower.
Because that's what living in dirt does, you know. It gives you diseases you could pass on to people by breathing.
The fact that this is still happening now, right?
Yeah.
When like so much of the world is quote unquote civilized. Like I don't know about you, but genocide and exploitation sounds pretty uncivilized.
Yeah, it sounds pretty savage
to me. Exactly. But but that's what they call us. That's what they call people who do live in the forest according to their own rules, their own natural laws, living in harmony with the earth, right? But
we're uncivilized.
It's so funny, like that. It's like funny and not a funny way.
No, it's just
But yeah, like to even talk about the forest, right? And like the way that like virgin land, which first of all, but like I was gonna say fertile land, that doesn't sound much better. But resources, land like with what they think is endless resources, right? And that's why they go in hard, because it's like, oh, endless resources. That's like, you know why it's been endless for so many centuries? Because we relax.
Yeah, we don't mine it, you know,
exactly.
to death.
We take what we need, right? And to be more specific to how, again, indigenous people have a relationship with the earth gives us what we need. The earth gives us what we need, and we accept that and then take care of the earth so that the earth will continue to give us, right? Like, tell me, like I read an article this last year that the Amazon rainforest is now emitting more carbon than it soaks. And like that forest for years, like decades and decades, has been called the lungs of the earth. Right. It
provides like a third of the oxygen or something of the earth, right?
And now they have deforested so much of it that it is now emitting carbon. Which I don't know, like, we're at the point of no return. Like I think I said that last time, but we are at the point of no return. We can try to mend, we can try to whatever, but at this point it's going to be finding that new normal, right? And there are people trying to, you know, plant trees and stuff like that, but to overturn causing the earth's lungs to now like can be part of the problem, it's going to take a lot more than what we can do in the next, you know, unless we all work together, unless again we stop colonialism like hard. Right. Like we talked about on the last Vanguard, right? Like the during the pandemic, like that little break, that tiny little slowdown moment, how much the earth improved in those 2 weeks. Right. Like if we can do that, when we do that, when we stop production, when we stop deforestation, like when we stop all of that mess, like the earth will start to heal itself. And like it's one of the saddest things, because like it, for so many years, like that whole like unknown, unlimited, untapped resources of Brazil, for me it was beautiful, right? And it was, and for so many people it was beautiful, and like, oh, that's I wonder what it's like, like. But for the colonizer, and this is the difference between the colonizer mindset, right? Is it was like, I want to take it. Like, I don't know what's there, but I want it, and I'm gonna do whatever I can to get it. And like that's the difference.
No, that is a difference, right? Because every time there's land that, again, is, like you said, virgin, like they said, like, you know, virgin land, it's meant for conquering, it's meant for like exploration, because, you know, they don't know what's there, but they're gonna go find out and see how valuable it is to, you know, use it to perpetuate their system, right? And in the end they'll lose it, and which we'll get into, like the last read that we have, like even the ones who seek these things out end up losing these resources anyway, because they start to devour each other once they devour these lands. But I wanted to bring up real quick Virgil's Read That Back, which kind of has to do with the relation to the earth, that you I brought up. It's all good. It says a U.S. technician estimated in 1936 that if the Inca terraces had been built by modern methods at 1936 wage rates, they would have cost let me try. They would have cost some $30,000 per acre. In that empire which did not know the wheel, the horse, or iron, the terraces and aqueducts were made possible by prodigious organization and technical perfection achieved through wise distribution of labor, as well by the religious force that ruled man's relation with the soil, which was sacred and thus always alive. I think that's like so beautiful because it shows that it was really material organization of labor and resources, as well as a spiritual connection with the earth that provided the resources, saying that, we have this need, and so we need to have these people use these resources to fulfill that need. And to inspire us to do this, we're going to thank the earth that gave us these things to provide us with the things we need to fulfill this need. Exactly. Right. And I think that's like such a beautiful marriage of just the material and the metaphysical, right? And it's just it just says so much about how it's possible, the world that we're trying to create. It's just so possible because it's existed in its forms before, So I really like that. Read that back.
Yeah, no, me too. I had that one highlighted as well. I have most of this book highlighted, but that was one of the ones that I pointed out because like you said, it's not only possible to build that, but it's more possible to have it back. Yeah. Right. It's to bring it back. Obviously with the context of today. Yeah. Right. Like I could go into the dialectical method book really hard because people think about decolonization. They think it's going back to this, right? Yeah. It's like that the negation, right? Mm-hmm. We're gonna negate all of the advancements of modern technology, whatever. And it's like, no, that's negating the negation. Yeah. Right. Again, go watch those episodes. Get into that. Yes. Part. We get into that part. But again, like you said, that spiritual connection, right? And it's a spiritual connection that is also criticized and ridiculed by the colony. Yeah. Because it's because again, they only see the land as something to take, as something to gain from, right? And our colonized people understood the relationship with that. Even to this day, not only for example, I grew up my dad making sure that I understood that everything that was of the earth, whether that was plant, animal, whatever, that we were siblings. Yeah. Right. And it's kind of a thing in the house because when we talk about food, I don't say pork or beef, right? I say the cow and the chicken. Yeah. So it's oh, do you want cow or chicken or whatever? Yeah. And it with other people, in people not in the revolution, right, who don't understand, it's always been a joke. Yeah. Right. It's oh, why do you say that? Why do you say that? And it's because that's what they are. Yeah. Right? To see just meat as something that you just gain from is taking away the value of the animal, at least in my eyes. Right. Yeah. And I grew up with my dad making sure every time he cooked for me, right, it was, this is the chicken. Yeah. And not only the chicken, but your sibling, the chicken. Yeah. Who has given its life for you to be nourished. Yeah. Right. It was my siblings' oranges, my brother, the orange. Yeah. Or whatever. And I know it. I know that it sounds silly. It's not though. But it's a beautiful relationship, right? When we would go into the mountains or just to the park, right? It was it was we would say hello to the trees and to the grass and to the ground. Because it's again understanding that relationship between us and the earth and everything that the earth gives us, right? And it's something that I haven't found anywhere outside of Black Hammer. Yeah. Understanding that same love that I grew up with and that I'm so blessed and grateful for. Because you do see everything so differently. I become a child whenever it's been snowing here, right? And I love the snow. I love it's so beautiful, and I want that same love like I want all of our colonized people to experience that love with the earth,
yes,
to reconnect with the earth, because not everyone did grow up
connected
learning,
that way.
you know,
Yeah.
and it's a really beautiful thing, and like to understand the earth, and because that, you know,
Mhm.
it will not only like do that for us, but to do that for the earth
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I fully unite with that. Yeah, I mean, think about this real quick. Like these colonial languages, like Spanish. You know, like if you don't know already, they have different words for the animal versus like the meat from the animal, right? A fish is pez, the food is pescado. You know, a gallina is the chicken, but pollo is the food. You know, it's like they separate it like that, and it's like that in English too, right? In all these colonial languages, but that isn't how it's like for colonized people, you know, around the world. Yeah, so yeah, full union with what you said, and like yeah, the revolution is going to make our people all connect with the earth again in the way that we're meant to.
Yeah.
As a sibling, as a comrade, as a part of our family.
Yeah,
Right.
like I didn't know pez and pescado were different until I was like 20 something.
See, there you go. And that's that anti-colonial teachings you got. All right, y'all. We're gonna go to our last, read that back. And then we'll go to our announcements. All right. So our last read that back is on page 56, I believe. Yes. Ooh, I'm skipping one. Page 56. All right. Yeah, it starts with England and Holland. England and Holland, the leading gold and slave contrabandists, amassed fortunes in the illegal black meat traffic and are said to have illicitly garnered more than half the metal the Portuguese crown was supposed to get from Brazil in Quinto Real tax. But Brazilian gold was channeled to London by licit as well as illicit methods. The gold boom, which brought a host of Portuguese to Minas Gerais, sharply stimulated colonial demand for industrial products and at the same time provided the means to pay for them. Just as Potosi silver rebounded off Spanish soil, Minas Gerais gold only reached Portugal in transit. The metropolis became an intermediary. In 1755, the Marquis de Pombal, Portugal's prime minister, tried to revive a protectionist policy, but it was too late. He declared that the English had conquered Portugal without the trouble of a conquest, that they were supplying two-thirds of its needs, and that British agents controlled the whole of Portuguese trade. Portugal was producing almost nothing, and the wealth brought by gold was so illusory that even the black slaves who mined it were clothed by the British. Celso Furtado has noted that Britain, following a far-sighted policy with respect to industrial development, used Brazilian gold to pay for essential imports from other countries and could thus concentrate on investments in the manufacturing sector. Thanks to this historical graciousness on the part of the Portuguese, Britain could apply rapid and efficient technical innovations. Europe's financial center moved from Amsterdam to London. According to British sources, the value of Brazilian gold arriving in London reached £50,000 a week in some periods. Without this tremendous accumulation of gold reserves, Britain would not have been able later on to confront Napoleon. Land back. Everything that the colonizer claims that they're able to do, everything that they claim that they're able to do, they want to say it comes out of their strength and like their intelligence and all this stuff. But look how the source of everything that they are comes from the looting of our resources and of our labor, right? So England, you could say, someone could say, oh, how powerful they were to like push back Napoleon or something like that, right? Or how powerful a navy was, or all this stuff that all their things are. But the root of it is always going to be in colonized nations and our resources. And you know, I mean, this is a huge example of that, and a huge example of how the nations that are colonizers that think they're powerful, like Portugal, they then end up living off of the resources of England, right? That just buys them out. And so they start to consume each other. And you know, I think we have to remember, yeah, let them consume each other, right? Let them consume each other, because look at how many of their nations really just rely on one small part of the colonized world. You know, so not only can Portugal be taken down by resisting the colonialism of Portugal on Brazil, but then England as well, right? They're all living off of it, and they all have made a pact to be leeches together, right? And you know, people want to like look at like, you know, poor working class people in Europe and be like, oh, like, you know, like how's that and all that stuff, right? Then, you know, let them fight for their rights, like in Spain and Portugal and stuff. But they're poor because other European countries are, are taking the stuff that they were stealing before, right? So like they put themselves into that mess, and they don't deserve any empathy or deserve any of that because they aren't seeing the true contradiction. Until they see the true contradiction, then we can't care about them, at all. And so it's just an example of, just again, like how colonialism really is. It's almost like an upside down pyramid, like all this weight like teeter-tottering on this like little point that is like, just like the resources of one colonized place, and that it's just so easily toppable.
Exactly.
Land back.
Yeah, land back. No, you laid it out perfectly. And like, as far as like the problems between themselves, right? Like, we're gonna practice what we preach and mind our own business. Like, that's it, right? Like, if y'all want to do that amongst yourself, go for it. Leave us out of it, right? And like that's the part right there, is that they didn't. Right? If they had any organization, if they were smart in any way, like, they would have been able to figure something out amongst themselves, right? But like, again, let's remember the reason that they went exploring to start with is because they were already drowning. They were already dying. In like what century? Like, y'all are so
right
dumb.
After the plague.
Like,
they're
y'all
like,
are so...
we need to come back alive.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, why'd you get the plague again? Because y'all dirty.
Dirty.
Y'all dirty. Like, that's the moral of God. Okay?
Sucios.
Like, it just, again, it just is so funny. Like, in the history of like humanity, right? Y'all were losing that soon. Y'all were losing that quick. Like, we were just getting started.
Yeah.
Like, and y'all were already like
falling apart.
Like, you're on your last life. Like, on your last life. And y'all cheated. Y'all cheated.
The whole world.
The whole world. The whole entire world, right? And like, now here we are. Because this is what happens when you cheat.
The planet dies. That's what happens when you cheat.
Literally. Sorry, I was a teacher and I just had like a whole
yeah. I know, I get those too.
I was just like, ugh. Anyways, no, but even my kids understood that this was a mess.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway. Yeah, like the reason that they went looking for not even our land, but
they thought they were in Asia.
Like, they're so dumb. I can't. Like, had no one been there before, like, to India? I mean, people had, like, they knew what they were looking for. They just wanted to take a shorter route. Yeah. So like, y'all were already there. Lost. Like, y'all were already there. You knew what you were looking for. You went somewhere else and was like, oh, this is the same, even though it looked different when I was there last month. We were like so dumb.
This looks so different.
So dumb. Yeah. Anyways, like, they came looking because they were already dying, right? So the moment that we take back all of those resources that allowed them to sustain their, jacked up lives, the moment we take that back, what do they have to stand on, right? The last centuries of overextended life. Yeah. Like, they will be reduced to ashes because they had nothing to stand on to begin with. And that's where the true building starts for us. Right, when we take that back,
the rebuilding.
Yes, exactly, the rebuilding, right, and the recovery of what they've done to us, right, and that's gonna take work, and it's gonna take work, but no other work is worth more than taking that back so that we get to rebuild, for our ancestors, for those millions of people, right, those millions of people, the millions and millions and millions and millions of people who they murdered, right? Like, for them, we get to rebuild, right? And for all of the revolutionaries that have come before us, right? Who were taken, right? Who, a lot of them were murdered by the same system. Like, we have to continue that fight.
Don't work for them. Like, don't work for those people, right? Don't work for the enemy that is just making you do whatever it needs to in order to keep itself alive and going. Don't work for your own bag. Don't be like, I'm gonna just get mine and be fine, right? Because that doesn't solve anything else for anybody in the world. It doesn't solve anything for you even, right? You want to put your work in for your people and for their freedom, and there's no other work that's more rewarding, right? But it's work. And that's something that you have to realize. It's labor, it's work, because how much work did they put in to design this system of murder for us, right? We have to put in double, triple, quadruple the work to overturn that and stop them finally. So
it is work. It's harder than anything you'll do in the colony.
Yeah.
Because it just is, right?
Just
like
is.
it's gonna harder than any class you take. It's harder than any anything,
plantation
right?
job.
Exactly. Harder than any job that you can have, all with the contradictions of colonialism still hitting you in the face, right? But you have to keep in mind what the end goal is, which is liberation.
Freedom, yes.
Like liberation, like what, there's no price for liberation, right? And they like just remembering that, it's so worth it. It's so worth it, you know. And if I mean, sometimes for me, what gets me going is seeping in the anger. Like I'm gonna be real, right? Because like it's like all of these contradictions. Like when it does get hard, think about why it's hard.
Yeah.
And that fire.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, I unite with that. I don't know what keeps me going. I'd say is, I mean, yeah, is the anger, the love, and just the possibilities. You know, like just like thinking about what the future could be. And like when that like just like makes you cry, then it just makes you realize like that. I mean, well, like what else is there? Like, you know, you want that future because you love people.
Exactly.
You know? So
you think about like the wildest thing that you can imagine, right? And I'm not talking like, oh, what technology, but like just freedom.
Yeah.
Freedom is the wildest thing I could ever imagine.
Yeah.
Because like the possibilities are truly endless, you know. And like if yeah, just like letting yourself imagine that and like actually know that the work you're doing is building towards that.
Towards it,
like every day. It's nothing compares to that. Nothing compares to knowing that you're building the world that you can only dream of right now.
Yeah.
Right? It just, and not only for yourself, but for everybody.
Yeah. Ooh, I'm trying to keep myself together. Let's get into the announcements before I start bawling.
Se vale llorar.
Yeah, for real. I'm like, okay. So make sure you watch the Revolutionary Church every Sunday on Facebook and youtube.com/BlackHammerTV. That's where you get to see our Atlanta chapter, meet with the people, and continue this work. All right. You got Gene crying. That's where you can see the Revolutionary Church. All right. And it'll be on our YouTube page after it airs live on Facebook on our Black Hammer page. All right. And then make sure you call the Atlanta Solicitor's Office. All right. We'll drop the charges on our hammers who still have these charges because of them feeding and clothing the homeless in Woodruff Park in Atlanta. You can call 404-658-6618, extension 5, to make sure that these charges are dropped. Okay. And then we're going to post it tomorrow. But yes, Black Hammer's 3rd birthday bash is coming up Thursday, February 3rd. It's Black Hammer's 3rd birthday. We preschool toddlers now. We learning the alphabet. We learning, you know, we got the counting and the colors down. You know, we ready for the world. Very, you know, we're preschoolers ready to take on the world and defeat colonialism. And so, yes, join us. It's gonna be a webinar talking about, you know, celebrating our best year serving the people, 2021. You know. And you know, there'll be some exciting announcements on that day as well. You don't want to miss it. So you can register at tinyurl.com/BHB day. All right.
That's exciting.
Yeah, I know, exciting, right? Just the 3rd birthday and look how much we've done. And how many bees know our name.
Ooh. Amen.
They think they know. All right. And then for next week, what are we reading?
We are reading pages 59 through 83. It's just 24 pages. It's not that much. But yeah, we're going to keep getting into this book. Y'all better come ready for that trivia. Better come ready with those read that bags and get up in these comments. But yeah, this has been good. We're done with chapter 1.
Yes.
This is already going by so fast.
I know.
I can already feel it.
Getting into chapter 2, which is called King Sugar and Other Agricultural Monarchs.
Ooh, you know we're gonna be upset.
This is about to start to get to my my people in Boriken, sugar land. So
Yeah, we're about to get real mad.
yeah.
Even more, but
Mhm.
yeah, come ready.
Yes, come ready with your read that backs, y'all. Okay, it's been a pleasure tonight with the political education, and we'll see you next Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern. All right, all right.